All right, thank you for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to go over solving inequalities on the coordinate plane. Let's go. In today's video, we're going to learn how to solve inequalities on the number line and on the coordinate plane. So let's begin by going over what this means. This means x greater than negative 2. When I have x and greater than negative 2, I'm going to find the point and I'm going to circle. Anytime I have less than or greater than, I will have an open circle, which means it's excluded from my domain. This means excluded. Whenever I have a less than or equals or greater than or equals, that will be included. So if I have less than or equal or greater than or equals, I will have a shaded circle, which means that the solution is included. This means x to the right of negative 2. That will be anything pointing in this direction. Whenever you see an n, it's going to be an inequality that is pointing towards each other. So I'm just going to indicate an arrow by going this way. Then they say n, give me a number that is less than 7, but it's also greater than negative 2. So here I'm going to find 7. Because 7 is x is less than 7, that 7 is going to be excluded from my domain. And this will be any numbers pointing to the left. However, you have to stop here, because also x has another condition. It says x has to be greater than negative 2, but it also has to be, or n has to be less than 7. So it will be, the shading will be where they're pointing towards each other. So we can just do some shading over here. You can use any color that you like. I'm just going to use green. That is the shading. All right, so far we're making progress. Let's go to this one now. So how do you graph it? How do we convert this into the coordinate plane? How do we transfer this to this? So for this video, we're going to show you that anytime you have x is greater than negative 2, you need to know two conditions. Anytime you have x equals to a number, you're going to have a vertical line this way. Okay. When you have an inequality which is less than or greater than, you're going to have a dotted line. So this means that you will have a dotted line. Keep in mind there's still a vertical line, but it's also dotted. So to graph the one they're asking me, which will be x greater than negative 2, right? So this is the one we're graphing. This would just simply mean that it's going to go to the left. So if I were to graph this one, I'll put it right here, and I'll go left. But they don't want me to do that. This is an example. They want me to graph this instead. And they also want me to graph x is less than 7. So basically, they want me to graph the same two graphs that I did here, but they want me to put it here on the coordinate plane. The only difference here is that you have a vertical line, and it's not a solid line. It's a dotted line. Whenever you're graphing inequalities with the greater than or equals or less than or equal, you will end up with a solid line. And we'll teach you how to solve this one in a little bit, or how to graph this one in a little bit. But for now, let's stick to this one here. So x is greater than negative 2. I know it's going to be a vertical line. Pretend you're graphing x equals negative 2. Well, that's going to be right here. Then you look at the sign, whether it's going to be dotted or solid. So because it's less than or greater, then I know I'm going to have a dotted. So this vertical line, and it's dotted, right? This is going to be going to the right of negative 2. So I find negative 2 right here, and make sure you guys do your dotted line. Put arrows to indicate that the graph will go to the right. Do not do the shading yet. I have some colors right here that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to go to x less than 7. So I'm going to go to 7 right here. 5, 6, 7 right here. Keep in mind that it's also a dotted line. This means go to the left of 7. The solution will be whatever the arrows are pointing to each other. Let's go ahead and do some of the shading. Okay, and that is how you do that shading. Keep in mind that n will be pointing towards each other. Whenever you have or, like this one here, you will have shading going in opposite direction. Okay, we'll talk about that as we get in there. Whenever you have y greater than or equals to -4, you're going to have two things. You're going to have a horizontal line, and you're also going to have a solid line because you have a greater than or equals. So pretend you're graphing y is equals to -4, since the line is going to be horizontal and it's also going to be solid. The only difference here, so I'm going to go down, -4 right there under y, right here, and then it's going to be a horizontal line, just like if you were to graph that. The only difference here is saying all the values that are greater than -4, but that's going to be above. Remember that the y is shaded above or below. In this case, that will be above. So I can use a different color if I want to. So I'm going to use this color over here. All right, now I'm going to go to this one right here. Is that going to be horizontal or vertical? Perfect. That is a vertical. And is it going to be solid or dotted? Perfect. Solid. So always check the conditioning to make sure that your graph will be accurate. And then also, is it going to go left or right? This is going to go right. So do those check marks to do the graph. So I'm going to do a vertical line at -2. And it's going to be solid. Yep, always check. That's going to go to the right. That's my arrows indicating the direction of the shading. Hopefully this tip doesn't break. And there it is, you guys. So there's my shading for this graph. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and also subscribe to the channel. All right, let's go to the bottom two questions. You can try them out before I do it. Pause the video and then let me know how you did. I'm going to go over the solution. Okay, for this one right here, I have an or statement. Whenever you have an or statement, you're going to have arrows or shading indicating in opposite directions. So or, opposite, and be in, towards each other. Okay, so I know this y is greater than or equals to -4, so that's going to be a horizontal line going shaded above. So I'm going to regraph that over here. And make sure it's a dotted line. I'm sorry, it's a solid line. Do not do the shading yet, okay? Just put the arrows to indicate the direction. It's an or statement, so it's going to have to be opposite directions. Let's go to this one here. It says x is greater than or equals to -2. X is greater than or equals to -2. So we're going to go here. -2 is solid. Yeah, solid line. And it looks like this one will be pointing to the right. Okay. Now, you could do the shading above and then shading to the right, but it gets a little messy. So instead, the way I do it is I look at where the arrows are pointing to each other. Here we have my shading. Wherever the arrows are pointing to each other, that's where my shading is going to be. Perfect. Let's do the last one to finalize this video. Here, I have an inequality. Y is greater than or equals to -4. That is going to be a solid line shaded above. And here I have an inequality greater than or equals to -2. So the and means that it's going to be some shading in between. the or is going to be opposite direction. So it's either that way or that way. Let's see the difference for this one. This one is going to be above and to the right of -2. So n to the right of -2 will be this one right here. For this one, it's going to be opposite direction. So let's see this one. So it's either greater than 4 or greater than -2. This will be n. Now, what is the difference between the two? For n, it has to be both conditions. So what is a number greater than -4 and n greater than -2 and x greater than -2. So the shading will have to be here. Okay, but that's an end statement because both of the conditions are true. Now, it can be the same as this one, so that makes me make a mistake on this one. You pause the video, find the mistake. For this part, everything will be included except this. That was a mistake. So for this one, you need to include either that or that. Okay, anything above the y and anything to the right, because it could be either to the right or either above. So either to the right or above. Now, can you include this one? No, that will not be part of your solution because it has to be to the right of that. And can you include this part of the solution? This one, yes, because it could be either or above or to the right, but it cannot be below here and to the left. No, right? Or to the left. It did say to the left. It's to the right. So it's either to the right of x of -2 or above -4. These numbers are above -4, and that is it. I'm glad we made that mistake because that's how you know this video is real and it's not preset. So we found a mistake and then we are good now. That's an or statement. That's an and statement. See you guys on the next video.